6 game breakdowns for week 8. Let's go. Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me. We have 6 top 25 matchups to break down. These are the games that I'm most excited for this weekend. We will start with a Big Ten matchup, probably one of the best games of the weekend in my estimation. The Nittany Lions visit the Buckeyes, and I will tell you right now that I lean Ohio State minus 4.5, but I have low confidence in that. However, I believe this should go under 45, and I think that total is way too high, and that is a high confidence bet. And here is why. Penn State with adjusted efficiency is the #1 defense in college football, and Ohio State in adjusted efficiency is the #2 defense in college football. So take 2 top defensive teams, literally the top 2 defensive teams, put them together. I don't know if we're seeing 45.5 points. Now, Penn State, I will tell you, is 6-0 against the spread, and if this game was in Pennsylvania, I think they would be the favorite, or at least we would see this spread closer to 1 or 2 in favor of the Buckeyes if they were still the favorite. The problem with Penn State's offense is they do not have explosive plays. Now, is that stopping them? No, because their defense is able to hold the opponent to next to nothing. And I do think this team will be able to run against Ohio State's defense, and I think they're going to have to run. But if it gets into a position where they need to play from behind, I think that is going to be a struggle. Drew Aller, as the quarterback for Penn State, I think is solid, but he's still young, and this will be the toughest test of his career. So I'm not confident on Ohio State minus 4.5, but that is my lean. And I will tell you this statistic for Ohio State. Ryan Day is 35-0 in Big Ten games against teams not named Michigan. So will that streak continue? Again, this will be a tough test, certainly. I do think home field matters in this one, and I think the game being in Columbus helps Ohio State continue their run. And I think if it was in Penn State, we would not see this spread sitting at this number. But here's my ultimate fear. We know Ohio State has not been running well this year, even though they have the backs to run well. My fear is that Penn State comes in with a plan to shut down Marvin Harrison, to shut down Ibuka, to shut down Fleming, to contain Cade Stover. And McCord struggles against Penn State's pass rush. And we just kind of see a very ugly game from this Ohio State offense. Now, that is why my lean of under 45.5 has high confidence, because obviously I'm more optimistic in that than I am in who wins this game. But that is how I break this one down. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with this analysis for this matchup. Second matchup I want to break down is another Big Ten. We have Minnesota and Iowa, and I think Iowa minus 3.5 might be my best bet of the entire week. I think this line is way off. I think this line is an overreaction to still quarterback news with Iowa. Iowa's offense struggling. And I will tell you why I think this is wrong. Because Minnesota is bad. All right. And I will tell you this, they're off a bye week this week, so that is going to help them. But when they win, it's against mediocre teams, and they have had bad losses, and that is bad losses to bad teams and big blowouts to good teams. And I think the difference in skill from Minnesota to Iowa is tremendous, and it's much more tremendous than this 3.5 points. Minnesota is giving up 35 points per game in their last 5. 4 of those have been at home. Now they have to go on the road. I just think this sets up really, really well for Iowa. Deacon Hill is the backup QB. He will be in the game again because we know that Cade McNamara is out for the season. But this is week 2.5 as a starter, and I say 2.5 because he played half the Michigan State game. He got a start last week, and now he gets a start at home against a very easy defense, especially when you compare it to last week at Wisconsin. Now, again, this should be his easiest game, and I think Iowa scores 24 to 28 points on this Michigan defense, and I don't think there is any way in the world Minnesota is able to score 3 touchdowns. So give me Iowa minus 3.5 as one of my highest confidence bets of the week. And again, this over is tricky. It's such a low total. 31.5 is almost insulting, but I think Iowa could find a way to get 24 to 28 on their own. So Minnesota needs a couple of field goals to maybe a touchdown to send us over. So again, low confidence, but I do lean the over in this one. SEC matchup, South Carolina visits Missouri. I like South Carolina +7, and I like over 59.5. These are both average confidence. And again, let me tell you why here. South Carolina is 2-4. There's no sugarcoating. They have a losing record, all right? But they have played 5 games versus top 50 teams. Now, one of those was to Georgia, on the road at Georgia. They only lose by 10. And the other was Florida, who they played last week, and they only lost by 2. So I think this offense is ready to, I don't want to say ready to break out, because they've been breaking out. They've been putting up points. But I think they're able to do that in a big way this week against this Missouri defense, who is probably the worst defense they faced all year. Now they played Furman. Obviously, they blew Furman out, but they're the worst defense of the best teams they've played all year. How about that? So I just think South Carolina is able to keep pace with this Missouri offense. I think this could be a game where both teams score 40, so I like the over. Now, Missouri, this is their homecoming. I don't know what that means, all right? I mean, I know what homecoming means, but I don't know what that means for a team. I don't know if that affects play positively or negatively, but it's a statistic, so I figured I may as well throw it on here. Missouri does not run the ball, and they have poor pass defense. I think they're just slightly overrated. If I look at their schedule, nothing really jumps off the page. They were in a crazy shootout with LSU, and that is kind of how I see this game going. Again, average confidence for both of these. It could go either way, but I think South Carolina comes in a little bit more tested, a little bit more hungry for a win, and so I like South Carolina +7 and the over in this one. Full disclosure, I went back and forth on this. My first sheet had Alabama -8.5, and the more I got to look, the more I said I am not sure. So that's why this is a low confidence Tennessee +8.5. This certainly scares me, and it's not something I will be putting a cent on. However, the under 49 is something I love. Here is why. Tennessee relies heavily on their rushing attack on offense, and I think they should be able to find some success against Alabama on the ground. Tennessee also comes in with probably the best defense we've seen out of the Volunteers in years, and I see this game going similarly to their Florida matchup in week 2, I think it was. Tennessee's first game, Florida's second game, because Florida played that week 1 game. But I think it could look a little worse for both of these teams. I do think Tennessee is going to be able to pressure Milroe in this one, and Alabama's offensive line is giving up, I want to say, 3.5 to 4 sacks a game. I just think this is going to be a sloppy, ugly game. And as for Alabama, they are a top 20 defense. Yes, Nick Saban is at home, and we know how he plays at home. But this team is having to rely on big plays to stay in games, and I think Tennessee is a team that can limit those big plays. So I see this being just an ugly 17 to 20 game. Does Alabama win? Maybe. Okay, probably. If I had to bet the money line, if these were even numbers, right, -110 both ways, I would put my money on Alabama. But Tennessee, you're getting a touchdown and a point. It's hard for me not to go with Tennessee, given that I think they can control the game on the ground and they can contain Milroe more than he's been contained. Alabama hasn't looked great. This one's a toss-up to me as far as who I'm taking, but I do like the under 49. I have a future on Florida State winning the college football playoff. They are undefeated right now, but I am not convinced after what we saw with them on the road at Clemson and at Boston College. Boston College, right? But they still get some grace here, and part of this is just luck. They have not been tested at home. This will be their biggest test at home. They've only played 2 away games and then a neutral site location. So they've had kind of a cush schedule as far as matchups and as far as where they're playing. Duke will be the best defensive team they've played by far. I love this team, but they do worry me a little bit. As for Duke, this is their first real road test. All of their tough matchups have been at home, and so I think that helps the defense out. And so I'm wondering in this one, can the defense travel? Florida State's putting up almost 30 points a game. Riley Leonard, Duke's quarterback, may return in this one. He's got a high ankle sprain. I'm not optimistic, but I do think his presence or not, Duke can still run the ball. Florida State is a 70th in rush defense, and we know Duke likes to run. So I think that bodes really well for the Blue Devils in this one. So 2 touchdowns is too much for me. So give me Duke plus 14.5 just because I think they can slow down Florida State's offense, they can run clock, and they can keep this one close. And I do like the under 49.5. I think this one's closer to 42. So when I got a whole touchdown, it is definitely a high confidence bet for me. Again, I think this is a slower pace. Duke is going to be able to limit what Florida State wants to do, which is make big plays in their passing game. So give me the under 49.5 and Duke plus 14.5. And my last game breakdown of the week is Utah versus USC. And I should have just colored all of these red because I truly don't know what we're going to see out of USC. They get scared by Arizona. They go to Notre Dame. They get blown out. And now they come back home against a conference opponent, against a ranked conference opponent, against a ranked conference opponent with a good defense. Oh, I don't know. I think this, I don't want to say this is USC's season. This is USC's season. And I don't know if they're up for it. I mean, you got Caleb Williams this week, and all he wants to talk about is part ownership in an NFL team. All right, you just got beat by however many. You looked bad. Your team had 5 turnovers, and now you want to talk about the NFL. Timing, my boy. Read the room, right? So this should be a bounce back spot for them. Caleb Williams' drama has been running high this week. This team offensively gives up a ton of sacks, and we know Utah is strong on defense. And we know that this team defensively is nothing. All right, USC has an awful defense. Now, they have a break here because Utah's offense isn't that great. Cam Rising is still out. They haven't found anything. They're scoring, 14 to 20 points a game. But does USC's defense provide them an opportunity to turn that around? I don't know. I legitimately don't know, which is why this is average and low confidence, okay? I think if this team forces turnovers, if they pressure Caleb Williams, if they can control the ball, run the ball well, and they can defend, then yes, I think this +7 and this under are great bets. But if USC comes out hot, they come out throwing the ball, they say, screw it, we got to put up 40 to win because our defense isn't stopping anything. I don't know if Utah can score 40. Actually, I do. I don't think Utah can't score 40. All right, Utah can score 28. All right, that's their ceiling for points. So these two plays kind of play into each other. Okay, and I should probably color them the same thing because if we are getting +7, it's going under 54.5. Okay, and vice versa. So those are my best bets of the week. All right, 6 games for you. Enjoy the college football weekend. If you see this video and you said, man, I wish he'd do something like this for NFL. Well, you're in luck because I do. Okay, I break down every game for NFL each week. So go ahead and click on that. And we will see you next time on the Green Beans Go channel. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and kissing somebody on the cheek today. Goodbye.